Portions of a controversial abortion law didn't take effect today after a federal judge ruled some of the regulations are unconstitutional. The ACLU of Indiana filed a lawsuit against the state on behalf of Planned Parenthood, challenging the legislation, which includes a selective abortion ban and requirements for the disposal of fetal tissue. They're calling it Independence Day for Hoosier women.
Happy Independence Day to the women of the state of Indiana. We get to celebrate our freedoms.
A small crowd gathered outside the State House Thursday night to celebrate a federal judge's ruling that stops the abortion law from going into effect.
We won't go back, we will fight back.
The injunction comes as the ACLU challenges the constitutionality of House Enrolled Act 1337. The lawsuit filed on behalf of Planned Parenthood focuses on two major portions of the law. One provision bans abortions performed solely because of a fetus's race, sex, or potential disability. The state and supporters of the legislation say it's aimed at preventing discrimination.
It ensured basically that a child, the fetus, the potential life was not going to be aborted based on whether they potentially had an abnormality of any kind. That's a rabbit hole we can't go down.
But the ACLU argues the restriction infringes on a woman's right to choose. The judge agreed, saying the ban goes against the landmark 1973 abortion case, Roe v. Wade.
What the legislature has attempted to do here is unprecedented. We have, since Roe versus Wade, a continuing line of Supreme Court cases which say that the woman's right to obtain an abortion pre-viability is fundamental and simply cannot be interfered with by the state.
The ACLU also challenged a portion of the bill that requires abortion providers to inform women of the ban. The judge ruled that provision is also unconstitutional. The second major part of the law requires medical facilities to cremate or bury fetal remains.
The majority of people don't want to see a baby in the trash dump. They don't want to see it. It's not humane, it's not right.
In her ruling, the judge says whether that portion of the legislation is constitutional is a tougher call, but she determined the goal of preserving the dignity of human life isn't legitimate because the courts don't recognize a fetus as a person.
I think the court recognized there's something fundamentally irrational about the state treating these remains as the remains of deceased human beings, because they clearly are not.
Roll that trap. We won't go back.
But the injunction could be a temporary one. The legal challenge still has to make its way through the court system. Indiana Governor Mike Pence released a statement saying he's disappointed in the ruling and remains steadfast in his support for the unborn, especially those with disabilities. The state hasn't decided yet whether to appeal. Indiana University filed a separate federal lawsuit, hoping to block a different portion of this law, which bars them from acquiring fetal tissue for research purposes. That part of the law did go into effect today. Now, the Supreme Court also ruled on an abortion case this week. The justices voted 5-3 to strike down Texas regulations that require doctors who perform abortions to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals and forced clinics to meet hospital-like standards for outpatient surgery. Indiana has a similar law regarding admitting privileges, but it's not necessarily unconstitutional.
The Supreme Court ruled on a specific Texas statute, and so to the extent other states have laws very similar, those are the laws that are most clearly now unconstitutional. Indiana's laws are a little bit different, but we do have some version of an admitting privileges law that now there's a stronger basis for challenging it. It will depend very much on the facts, though, because the facts here in Indiana are different, the law's a little different.
Indiana law says doctors performing abortions must have hospital admitting privileges, but lets them reach an agreement with another doctor who does.